welcome to Scrollin', episode 103. I'm Ket. Joining me, as always, Davius Starjumper. What's up, dude?
A lot of stuff. We got a lot of stuff going on, man.
A lot of stuff is up.
Well, and, a lot of things are down, so.
There are things that, some things are up, some things are down. That's just physics.
That's just usually what I say.
So main thing that's up is the Necrom patch. It's live on PC. Consoles, they still have another couple of weeks to wait, but almost like just yesterday it went live on PC. So in the patch notes, as far as I could tell, I skimmed through them. I don't see any surprises. Everything seems pretty much what we expected coming off of PTS. But in the game, though, if you look at some abilities and some descriptions and stuff, there's just some inconsistencies. What was one example? The Clan Fear sorcerer ability. Uncle Sam was pointing this out because he had been using it on his sorcerer build recently, and then he logs in on after this patch goes live, and it reads very differently. I'm not going to go into the details, but the description reads very differently. But then when you use it, it's not clear. It's actually still working the old way, maybe?
Yeah. He even found a way to make it show the old tooltip and the new tooltip at the same time. So there's a little tinkering. There's a little tinkering happening there with the Clan Fear. Something
depending on where you look in the UI, it's two different descriptions happening there. So yeah, there's some weird stuff like that happening. There's a bug where your food buff, you can't tell if your food buff is actually active or not, because it's not showing up in the UI.
If we had a patch with no funny stuff, I would be worried. I actually, this is the stuff we need. This is the nostalgia. This is all right. Now we know a patch is happening.
Honestly, I'm pretty impressed. The hiccups and stuff that we've had have been pretty minor.
Yeah.
Considering it's a whole new chapter with a new class and everything. So on launch day, on Monday, I logged into the game at 7:30 a.m.
That's
Central
wild.
Standard Time. And I logged right in. I mean, it was a little bit longer than usual to log in. That's normal, but not like an excessively long time. I got logged right in, made my Arcanist and all that stuff. I've never been logged into the game that early in the morning on launch day. It's usually like noon or later before you can get logged in.
Yeah, I saw your message, and I was pretty shocked at how quickly they must have had that thing just locked and loaded. Yeah,
they were ready to go. And there have been some bugs like the things I was just mentioning. There's a little bit of input delay, like Mistform especially. It was already pretty prone to some weirdness with input delays and multiple casts and stuff like that, and it's just kind of going nuts right now. And there's a few little things like that. I think it's just to be expected. It's going to happen, but all things considered, pretty darn smooth launch, I would say. I haven't heard of anyone just being in a huge long login queue or games crashing over and over again or anything like that.
Yeah, I would say it's gone well. Most of the stuff that has been acting weird, it's kind of laughable stuff. Nothing major.
Yeah. The food buff thing's a little annoying, but it's manageable. As long as you just kind of know it's there. I just started scratching the surface of the content this morning. I got up early and I was surprised to get logged into the game so early. And I was like, well, I have a while before I have to be at work. So I started the main quest. I haven't even completed the first, step of the quest. I just started it. But I did complete one side quest and it was pretty cool.
Nice.
The zone, we described it before, during PTS, is it's a lot like Vardenfell aesthetically, it's like this Mushroom Kingdom stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what it is. But despite that, I do find myself looking around and being pretty impressed with the scenery. It looks nice. I think it's a little bit different color palette than what you get with Vardenfell, and the terrain is a little different as well. It's not exactly the same. It's a very similar, aesthetic, but it's not exactly the same. It's a pretty well-designed zone. And the interiors, Davius, I think you would really appreciate some of these interiors. This particular side quest that I did, I went into this tower thing as part of the quest, and it was just super duper cool, man.
Okay, I'm excited for that. Nice.
Yeah, it's ever since you decorated my house for me a long time ago, I've kind of started paying attention to that sort of stuff. You go inside an area and this looks like this space is being used for like what they want me to think it's used for. It's like totally the environment is giving me so much information unconsciously. It's really neat. But yeah, have barely even. I mean, this just dropped yesterday, so we're barely even into the content. Have you even done anything with the DLC? Have you made an Arcanist or anything, Davius?
I don't have an Arcanist. Okay. I'm gonna wait a little bit on my Arcanist. I think I maybe even said this previously. I'm gonna wait a little bit on the Arcanist, get a little bit, kind of let it get figured out a little bit, kind of come up with an idea. A name's got to come to me. I'll look at a name is probably the more important part. Once I get that figured out, then I'll get the Arcanist and kind of get that put together.
Okay, you got to have the concept first.
Yeah, I did go to the zone for a little bit, kind of looked around, but very, very briefly. But I do agree. It was it's I don't know, kind of like I don't know, sharper, if that makes sense. Like it is Vardenfell, but to me, it's just you can tell that it's Vardenfell years later. Like you can tell
it's
that
better. It's it's a little bit like more modernized design sensibilities. Mm-hmm. From what I can glean from the story so far, I mean, I'm just getting started, but the setup and everything, it seems like we're kind of back to the whole like end of the world, huge, like massive thing going on here. Last year with High Isle, they kind of made a point to be like, this is not going to be that. This is going to be a more down to earth kind of political story, which seemed like a refreshing idea at the time, but honestly, in retrospect, it was just kind of boring, in my opinion. Yeah. And I kind of want to go back to like larger than life, like insane stuff happening. I think that's what I'm here for, honestly.
Yep, that's what we're about.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll have a lot more detailed thoughts, I think, about the content and stuff next time. I'm just now getting started.
I think we'll have a little bit more time to look at the zones, test out the quest.
Yeah, but I have a just initial impression. I have a sense it's going to be a fun adventure here. It just seems like there's some cool stuff lined up to happen here. Garion says the issue is everyone saw all the twists coming in the story of High Isle. Yeah, I guess they were pretty well telegraphed, and they just, even if it did take you by surprise, I don't know, it just wasn't like, whoa, I was just like, oh, okay. All
right, yeah.
Nothing really like blew me away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my Arcanist 2, just my usual MO. I just made him random on the character select screen or the creator screen. First name that came to my mind was Randolph, like Gandalf, but with an R.
Oh, Randolph.
So Randolph. So that's his name for now. I might get a name and appearance change token or something later on, but that's just for now. He's a dark elf, and he's like maybe a level 6 or something. Just me running around doing quests and stuff. So yeah, no idea for any build or anything. He's just out there, a little level 6 dude doing his thing, doing quests, and my plan is just like a brand new character. I'm just going to use whatever gear I find as I go, and there's no build in mind. We're just going to kind of wing it.
Getting just the full feel for the class.
Yeah, exactly. And until the content is done, until I'm finished with the story and all that stuff, and then I'll try to figure out like, okay, what's my build? I am using the new random mount feature. It's pretty fun.
I'm really struggling with that one just because like I'm struggling with it much more than I should be, right? Like it's a very cool idea. And I think that's why I'm struggling with this because I really like the idea. But I make all of my characters match their mounts. And so like using it, I'm like, oh, this doesn't match. Like I can't do it. I've turned it off and on probably like 7 times already.
Yeah, I won't use it with every character because some characters it's just like, no, this is just too perfect a mount for this character. That's their mount. But like my main dude that I do like dungeons and stuff with, he's just kind of like I just kind of do whatever's fun with that guy appearance wise. Mm-hmm. I think he's a good candidate for that. And
have you figured out if you can do your random mount from your favorite list? Is that favorite list like account wide, or is it just that favorite list for that character?
I don't know. My assumption would be per character, but I don't really know.
I hope it's that way. That would allow me to maybe use it more.
Yeah, that would be cool, because if you have kind of a couple of mounts in mind that you like for a certain character, you can cycle through them.
I can make that work. I'll have to test that out.
As far as BGs and PvP, we don't have a lot of thoughts to share with that because it's been 24 hours basically. So we did a handful of BGs, like maybe 3 or 4 total, since the patch dropped. And so far, I can say Old Betsy, my main, feels pretty good, and I'm still having a pretty good time in BGs. I'm not seeing a lot of Arcanists. I've seen a few. None of them were really doing anything special, honestly. I think people just don't have their builds together yet, and I think we probably will start seeing them here in the next day or two. But so far, no real impressions to share BGs wise. Anything for you, Davius?
No, still too early on. It's we just not enough time to get a real feel for what this patch is going to do for BGs. I agree with you. I think by the next episode we're going to have a real good feel of what kind of the meta we're running into is, or at least have an idea of what direction it's going.
Gary just posted a screenshot from a BG. It's 11 out of the 12 players are Arcanists, and there's one Nightblade. Sorry. What was I about to say? Oh, one thing that I will say from the few Arcanists that I have seen in BGs is that visually, the skills aren't nearly as like overbearing as I was expecting. Like once it's kind of mixed in with all the other visual stuff that's happening from the other classes and other people casting things, it actually blends fairly well. It's not like totally overpowering everything else that's happening. It's the only thing you can see. You know, it's not as bright and crazy as I was expecting it to be. When you're all by yourself and it's in a vacuum, it looks like really dazzling. But a lot of the abilities that we already have are actually pretty dazzling too, and it kind of just mixes in with everything else, and not so bad. So, what we're going to do this episode, for the bulk of the episode, is we're going to dig into the new class, the Arcanist. We're going to go skill by skill, morph by morph, and just talk about what these things do, why you might use it, what kind of build you might use it on, just whatever thoughts come to mind as we go through it.
I like it.
Yeah, I need to do this because I don't really have a strong sense of like what all tools they have available to them and stuff. So I kind of have been looking forward to just kind of going through one by one and be like, all right, what do we have here?
Yeah, I feel like after kind of diving into this and kind of picking them apart, I feel like I'm gonna have a little bit. I was talking about like I got to come up with an idea. I feel like this is gonna start that path. This is the first step down the path of coming up with the idea.
Yeah, we're gonna spark something in that brain of yours. So we will start with the Herald of the Tome skill line. This is the damage focused skill line. We'll start with the ultimate, which is the Unblinking Eye. And I'll just read the base abilities just word for word. So, tear open the fabric of the Arbus to summon a scion of Hermaeus Mora. This being casts forth a beam that rends asunder reality for 6 seconds and deals 1,115 magic damage to enemies within 5 meters every 0.5 seconds. And the beam can be repositioned by recasting the ability. So it's kind of like the DK shifting standard. You can recast it to reposition the AoE.
Do you know if this beam is this just a straight line beam? Like, does it move around on its own?
So it's actually an AoE on the ground. It's like a big circle. There's a beam animation playing. It's like a little tentacle creature that appears above your head, and he's shooting this like beam down to the ground. But it's putting a big circle on the ground.
That makes a lot more sense. Makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. And for me, I have a little like Arcanist build put together in the build editor here just to kind of look at some tooltips. For me, this build has 6293 weapon damage and 32,000 magicka. And that ability has a 5,500 tooltip. So 5,500 damage every 0.5 seconds. Quite a bit of damage.
Yeah, that's pretty good tooltip. And how long does that last? For 6 seconds? Yeah, that's
6 seconds.
That's pretty good little AoE.
And you can recast it to reposition it. And so then the morphs, we have the Languid Eye. So every 0.5 seconds, the beam's damage increases by 7%. And it also applies a 50% snare to targets. So it just gets stronger and stronger and stronger the longer it goes on, and it snares people.
Slowing people down.
And then the Tide King's Gaze morph, the duration is increased to 8 seconds instead of 6 seconds. And it automatically follows the initial target, and then it searches for a new target if the original target is slain. Or I imagine if they go out of range or something, it'll probably start searching for a new target too.
I'm not gonna lie, I like both of those morphs. Like both those morphs are pretty good.
Yeah, when I logged on to PTS and watched people dueling and stuff, it seemed like most of them were using that morph there, the one that follows people.
But even the other one, like a 50% snare, and if you can, kind of recast it on them, like, not bad. Not bad at all.
It's good damage. It costs, I think, 200 ultimate, like all 3 of their ultimates. It looks cool. And yeah, the people that I've talked to that have tried it out they say it's really strong. So that's the main offensive ultimate, and then the regular active abilities. We have Rune Blades. This is the class spammable. So craft a series of apocryphal runes before launching them at a foe, dealing, this says 695 magic damage 3 times and generating crux. This ability deals 3% increased damage for each active crux when cast. So obviously, any tooltip we say here is going to scale with, some stats that your character has. So that's 695. It's obviously going to be a lot more than that.
Yeah.
But the wording says you craft a series of apocryphal runes, so it makes it sound like your character's like sitting there like crafting something, but it's really, you just throw it right at someone immediately.
Just
it's an immediate cast. Yeah. And it's 3 projectiles. It's like choo choo choo, 3 projectiles in a row like that. And when you add all 3 up together, they basically equal the damage of a typical range spammable.
So is it kind of like it kind of sounds like a ranged rapid strikes. Is that kind of a decent description?
Yeah.
Less hits, but
not a bad way. It reminds me quite a bit of the sorcerer's bound armaments, those daggers that appear above their head, and you shoot them at someone, they kind of go in rapid succession. It's kind of like that.
Okay.
It's also a little different. It's a range spammable, but it's slightly shorter than other range spammables. It has a 22 meter range instead of a 28 meter range. So got to be a little bit closer. And the cost is determined by your highest max resource. So it could be magic, it could be stamina, depending on your build.
Interesting. That's a cool idea.
Yeah, they have actually a few abilities that have that. I'll try to mention them as we go. So the morphs, we have escalating rune blades. So that one deals ramping damage. Each hit does more damage than the last. And then the last hit is an 8 meter AoE. Hits everyone in that blast area. And then the writhing rune blades morph, you gain between 1095 and 2191 weapon and spell critical based on the number of crux that's active. So that'd be between 5 and 10% crit chance, basically, based on the number of crux. So I imagine that's probably the one you would want for PvE, I'm guessing, and the other one you would want for PvP, probably, I guess.
The only thing I have is on the escalating, I feel like it could be tricky to try to make that AoE hit since it reduces the range so much. I feel like that could create some, you'd have to have some real movement there if you're casting at range at 20, 22 meters, but then you've got to make sure you're within 8, that 8 meters to get the AoE. Or are you?
No.
Oh, the AoE is just 8 meters. That's an 8 meter circle is what it is.
Yeah, so it's you hit them with all 3 rune blades, and then the final one, when it hits them, it like explodes around your target in an 8 meter radius.
Okay, that makes much more sense. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that would be the one I would go with in a PvP.
Yeah, probably. But who knows? I mean, someone may typing up an email right now telling us how wrong we are.
You fools.
And then we have the infamous beam cannon, Fate Carver. Harness pure knowledge into a beam of energy that scars the world in front of you. Channel the beam for up to 4 seconds. Actually, on the live server, it's 4.5 seconds. But this says 4 seconds. Dealing 879 magic damage every 0.3 seconds. Casting Fate Carver consumes all crux and increases damage done by 33% per crux spent. That'd be up to 100% basically, or up to 99% increased damage for all three. So yeah, this is that big like beam cannon, free aim, like it doesn't lock on to targets, it follows your cursor wherever you go. It's super strong. It seems like this is where most of the class's power budget was put into. This is the developers seem to really want you to use this ability to have, the full power potential of the class.
It kind of seems to me in a weird way like this is the delayed burst. Like build your crux up and then use this ability.
Yeah. Yeah, and they have a couple of other like little things to kind of help you have some delayed burst as well, but this is the big boy right here for sure.
Do you have an idea, like in that build editor, do you have an idea of what like the tooltip is with some weapon and spell damage?
Let's see here. So 4367 every 0.3 seconds.
So
and you could basically double that. So it would be 8,000 or 9,000 something.
Every 0.3 seconds. So you're looking at like 20, that's over 20K per second.
Yeah. And it goes on for 4.5 seconds.
Wow.
And it's fun. It looks cool. Like I've played around with it a little bit, and I just unlocked it actually on my character like this morning. And it is pretty fun. I have yet to see it used effectively, and actually I don't think I've seen anyone try to use it at all in a battleground, just the handful that I've done.
I just feel like it'd be so hard to hit someone. And that's just, I've never even tried to use it or control it, but...
There is an aim assist feature in the settings that's actually enabled by default, so it doesn't exactly lock on to targets, but it does kind of follow them a little bit. It does help, but still in PvP, people are so erratic, like high MMR. Yeah. It's just not gonna. I feel like it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
I feel like these beam cannon like builds that are really kind of going for the beam cannon thing. I feel like it's probably going to be like Necro bombers using Dark Convergence, where it's like it'll be really effective once or twice in a battleground, and then after that, everyone's ready for it, and it's never going to work again. I think it's probably going to be like that.
Yeah. It's kind of a cool idea for a skill, though, because like if there's a really talented player out there that is just amazing with aiming this, like they've just got great aim with it, like it would it would highly reward that player, like for being that skilled. That's kind of a cool idea.
Yeah, but then you run into like server desyncs and stuff, which is actually a lot more common than you may even realize. Like you're never perfectly lined up with the person on the other end of things as far as timing goes, and the server's just trying to approximate a lot of things.
That's a great point.
It's going to be pretty tough. But it's still a neat idea for an ability, though. I'm glad that they have this thing. I kind of am wishing that the power budget wasn't so heavily weighted into this ability. But it's just a neat idea for an ability anyway.
Think how cool that ability is just from a PvE standpoint. Like slow the beam on and just mow down an entire mob.
Yeah, well, and like from parses that I've seen on YouTube and stuff, it is just, it's about building up that crux and beam, build up the crux and beam. And that's the rotation basically. And this is another one that costs the highest of your max resources. So it could be magicka or stamina. So the morphs, we have Exhausting Fate Carver. It applies a 15% snare per crux, in addition to the base ability. And then we have Pragmatic Fate Carver. While channeling, you also gain a damage shield that absorbs up to 3725 damage and grants interrupt immunity while the shield holds. So it just helps you, hold that beam for a little while. I don't know if that 3725, I'm guessing that probably scales with your max health and magicka, so maybe it'll be bigger than that. That would probably be the one I would want to use of those two.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm not even really, that damage shield doesn't even really do a whole lot for me. It's really that interrupt immunity. If I'm going to spend crux to do this and I need those 4 seconds to hit a lot of damage, the fact that I know nobody can interrupt it that's pretty nice.
Yeah. And you probably would not even want to try to cast this without crux. Like just the base ability with no crux, you're better off hitting a spammable than that,
Yeah.
So, but then you get that crux and it can really hit. So yeah, that's Fate Carver. I'm definitely going to try to make it work since that is kind of what the class is. It seems like that's what they're all about, is that ability. I'm gonna try it. Um, so next up we have Abyssal Impact. This is the Tentacle Arm. So infuse your arm with abyssal magic to form tentacles that lash out at your foes, dealing 1939 physical damage. Enemies are immobilized for 3 seconds and marked with abyssal ink for 20 seconds. You deal 5% increased damage to enemies drenched in abyssal ink. And it costs stamina. Base ability is a stamina ability. So yeah, it's basically just an AoE spammable that immobilizes people. And it applies this abyssal ink thing that basically just applies a debuff that makes them take 5% increased damage from you. It says you deal 5% increased damage to enemies drenched in abyssal ink. So I'm guessing even if a different Arcanist applies the abyssal ink, you still get the 5% increased damage, I'm guessing.
This ability kind of gives me the Necro Scythe ability vibes.
Yeah, I can see that. I think it's probably better than that.
Yeah, a little bit better, but I think
it's like a 15-meter range. It's a really long range.
Oh, wow. That's a lot more than I thought it would be.
Yeah, it's really huge. And so then for the morphs, we have Cephaliarch's Flail. So I think this dude's like a cephalopod, right? I guess that's where that word's coming from. Cephaliarch's Flail.
Sure, his flail.
So basically, when you hit someone, then it also will give you a heal, and it will generate crux. I think the heal is health based, and it deals up to 100% more damage to enemies under 50% health. So it's an execute. It's an AoE execute. In addition to immobilizing and doing the abyssal ink, the base ability stuff. And then we have the other morph, Tentacular Dread, converts into a magic ability and deals frost damage. It consumes all crux and increases damage by 20%, and then it increases damage to enemies drenched in abyssal ink by an additional 2% per crux spent.
My goodness.
That's a lot. But basically, if you consume any crux at all, you're going to get a 20% increase to the damage, plus an extra 2% for each crux that you consume. So it'd be a maximum of 26%.
That's what I was about to say. You can only have a maximum of 3 crux, right? Like it caps out.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, you can build up 3 crux and then have a 26% increased damage from this thing, or you can use the execute morph with the 100% increased damage or up to 100% increased damage to enemies below 50% health. That seems like the one I would want to use for PvP, the execute one. But they both seem pretty strong.
To me, what stands out is that I would have to compare this ability. Obviously, like you said, it has a really long range, but at AoE execute, I would have to compare this to Spin to Win and kind of weigh the range and the damage and see kind of how those two match up against each other.
Let's see. I'll tell you right now, buddy.
All right, let's hear it.
Let's see. So it's in the build editor, so things might not be exact, but let's see. So Spin to Win has a 9K tooltip, just like 9,026. It's 100% execute, up to 100% damage to enemies below 50% health. So the same execute modifier.
Well, plus the passive, the dual wield passive, right?
Oh, so you get another 25% from that. Yeah, you're right.
It's 125.
And then, so this one, it's a little bit higher tooltip, 9729, so like 700 more with the same execute modifier. So it's similar.
Yeah.
Similar to Spin to Win.
A little bit
much
more,
longer range.
Yeah, I was going to say a little bit more of a range.
And you get that abyssal ink thing. You get the immobilize.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah, way longer range. Looks cool.
Seems pretty good.
Yeah, it seems very good. So, Tome Bearer's Inspirations, the next active ability. Etch a series of runes onto your weapon that pulse with power once every 5 seconds. Each pulse enhances your class abilities. In striking an enemy with one, deals an additional 1161 magic damage and generates crux if you have none. While slotted on either ability bar, gain major brutality and major sorcery. So this is your major damage buff. It grants it to you passively, but you only have to slot it on one bar, and you get it on both bars.
Wild.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So this thing, etch a series of runes onto your weapon that pulse with power every 5 seconds. So yeah, every 5 seconds, this thing will do a pulse, which kind of imbues your class abilities with this like one single instance of additional damage. If you hit anybody with any class ability, it'll do this additional magic damage. And then that's it until the next pulse, 5 seconds later. And then you get another instance of extra damage.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Oh yeah, so for me, the tooltip's about 6K. Whenever your class abilities deal that extra damage with my little example build I have put together here, it'll deal about 6K additional damage. So there's another kind of delayed burst thing that they have built in there. It's going to be hard to kind of predict, I think, when exactly it's going to hit. But it's some extra burst damage you'll have. The morphs, we have Inspired Scholarship. And all that does is it makes it pulse every 3 seconds instead of 5 seconds. So you'll get to hit more often with that extra damage. And then the other morph is Recuperative Treatise. So it's back to the 5-second pulse, but the pulse restores 600 magicka and stamina every time. So that'd be equivalent to 240 recovery of each.
Wow. That's the one I would go with, is the recovery.
You go for the recovery one?
Yeah, to me, what an easy, great way. I mean, I'll say this. After seeing this ability, I would argue this is the best weapon damage buff in the game.
Oh, yeah. It's so nice. The fact that it gives it to you passively and does this extra thing.
And you can throw it on your back, bar, and you're just getting it at all times. Like, it doesn't even matter what bar you throw it on. Like, throw it in the spot that you least need to use. Even if you do use it as an ability, it's a great ability with it. Additional damage, you get sustain out of it. Like, you get a little bit of everything out of this. I mean, just really good all around.
It also makes your weapon look really cool too. It like makes it all glowy and stuff.
Yeah.
I think I would use the one that pulses every 3 seconds. I think I would go for the more damage one and maybe switch if I feel like I need the sustain, but honestly, unless they get some nerfs, man, you're not going to need that sustain.
That is true.
I'm telling you.
That is true.
So yeah, great. That's a great ability.
Yeah, good all around.
Next up, we have the Imperfect Ring. Summon a flawed rune under an enemy that etches foes nearby with scrawled glyphs, dealing 4631 magic damage over 20 seconds. An ally near the initial target can activate the Rune Break synergy, dealing 2698 frost damage to enemies within 7 meters. So yeah, my own rewording, you cast this on someone and it does this AoE burst that applies a dot to everyone that it hits, and then someone can activate this synergy. For me, the tooltip is about 13k, does a 13k blast in a 7-meter area when somebody hits that synergy. Not too bad.
Not too bad at all.
This one costs the lowest of your max resource pools.
Wow. Okay.
Kind of interesting.
That is interesting.
The morphs, we have Fulminating Rune. So the rune lingers on the initial target for 6 seconds before detonating, and then it deals 1438 frost damage to enemies within 7 meters, and then up to 3 allies can use the synergy, the Rune Break synergy. And again, my actual tooltip with stats is about 13k, so you could coordinate a group, get 3 people to hammer that thing at the same time, and
that's a real
people up.
Yeah, I'm getting some real bomb vibes with that.
Oh yeah, but like a team bomb though, you have to like coordinate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a pretty cool idea.
It is a cool idea.
And then the other morph is Rune of Displacement. This is Dark Convergence, the ability. It's really not that bad, but it will probably be kind of annoying. So it pulls in nearby enemies. You cast it on somebody, and then after a 2-second delay, it pulls in people around them, and then applies that dot to everyone. So it's just like a CC ability. I don't know. They're both pretty good. That pull in could be really handy, I think. But man, that's a lot of potential damage from that 3 synergy one too.
You could, I see the 3 synergy one being widely used in Cyrodiil, Imperial City, But even in a really well organized battleground group,
pre-made BGs. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Man, you could blow up a whole team with that. 2 teams. You could blow up 2 other teams with that. Pretty wild.
Well, I'm sure you could. You know what? I bet this is why they changed Harmony. Can you imagine this with Harmony? Like everybody in the group wearing Harmony.
Oh wow! I bet you're right.
I bet they had this idea for this ability, and we're like, oh, we can't let Harmony go live.
They've got some internal testers that threw Harmony on a build and tested this thing, and they went, "You got to do something. You got to do something. This isn't going to work."
That's funny. I just thought of that. So that seems like a fun ability. So that's all of the active abilities from that skill line, from the damage skill line. The passives, we have Fated Fortune, Warp Fate when you generate or consume Crux, increasing your critical damage and critical healing by 12% for 7 seconds. I think you can assume that's basically just going to be a permanent 12% damage and healing.
Right? Like it's not a stackable thing.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll just refresh, I think.
12% is quite a bit. Like that's
a lot.
That's a lot.
It's like a Mundus Stone, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll just basically be permanently active really easily. Harnessed Quintessence. You master the warp and welt of your very soul. When you restore magicka or stamina, increase your weapon and spell damage by 5% for 10 seconds. So, of course, you have magicka and stamina recovery. You're always restoring those resources. So that's basically going to be permanent too. Weapon and spell damage, 5% boost. That's actually really valuable. There are not a lot of percentage increases to weapon and spell damage. That's one of the very few sources of that. That's pretty nice.
That's quite a bit. Do you have a number, like just on your test build, of how much weapon and spell damage that's given?
Let's see. I could probably figure that out. Here, Harness Quintessence. Okay, so it's actually not active right now. So I have 6293. If I activate Harness Quintessence, that takes up to 6520. So like 200 something.
Yeah. That's
not bad.
That's really good for just a passive that's just happening all the time. It's
just not something you have to think about. It's going to be permanently active, just automatically, basically.
That's really good. It's a great passive.
They have so many awesome passives. Dude.
Yeah,
the whole toolkit's pretty nice, but the passives are the best part of the class by far. They have some amazing passives. I think some of their passives will have to be nerfed eventually.
Yeah.
The next one is Psychic Lesion. Your attacks wound the mind with heretical knowledge, increasing your damage dealt with status effects by 15% and status effect chance by 75%. That I don't remember that from PTS, but increase your chance to apply status effects by 75%.
That's
increase
one
the damage of them by 15.
That's one when we get later on. I'm going to come back to. I got some thoughts on that.
Well, I got some thoughts. That definitely should be a Necromancer passive, in my opinion.
It absolutely should be.
That really has nothing to do with the theme of this class, and it has everything to do with the theme of the Necromancer class.
Yes. I'll just say it now. We don't have to wait. We'll throw it out there now. I won't name names, but I was in a BG and saw a Arcanist utilizing this passive, specifically. Had a very dot focused Arcanist, and it was unbelievably impressive.
Oh yeah, I bet you could do like a Serpent's Disdain or Heartland Conqueror, either one, to just really ramp that stuff up.
Of course, they had the twin slashes, the Dragonstar Arena.
Oh yeah, the Master's Dual Wield.
The Master's Dual Wield. I mean, it was oppressive. It was highly good results, and every BG that I saw that specific Arcanist in, highest damage in the BG by a good amount.
Yeah, I think you can really crutch on that passive there.
I think that like if we're talking about like an Arcanist meta and BGs, I think that is what we're going to see with it.
Yeah, I would take a look at Serpent's Disdain and Heartland Conqueror with the charged weapon trait.
Mm-hmm.
Be a really good option.
And like you just, you read it there, but you cannot understate the increased status effect chance by 75%. Just that on top of the damage dealt, like that's a lot. And 15% is a lot. That's a lot. You know, we just talked about what 5% did damage-wise. Like 15% is a lot of extra damage.
Yeah, that's a juicy passive.
Yeah.
Next one is Splintered Secrets. What they don't know can kill them. Increase. I love the
it's so good.
Man.
It's so good.
Increase your physical and spell penetration by 991 per Herald of the Tome ability slotted. So it's similar to that Warden ability with the animal companions, the Warden passive with the animal companions. Pretty straightforward. So that is the Herald of the Tome skill line. Great skill line, especially the passives.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Curative Rune Form. So this is the healing skill line. The ultimate's weird to me. I don't know if I like this ultimate. Vitalizing Glyphic is what it's called. Summon an apocryphal Glyphic, which you and your allies can heal. The Glyphic spawns at 30% health and grows stronger the more you heal it. The power within the Glyphic grants you up to 200 weapon and spell damage. So that's the maximum. And heals you and your allies around it for up to 927 health every 1 second in proportion to its health. So basically, when you heal it up to 100% health, then everyone in the group is going to have 200 extra weapon and spell damage, and they're going to be getting this hot for 927 every 1 second.
Can you see what that heal is with kind of regular numbers?
Oh, so 4150 health every 1 second is what my tooltip shows here.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. So that is a strong heal. It's like a lot of work you're putting into this thing, though, to like get it to do its thing. But I don't know, maybe it's like stronger than it seems and it'll be worth it. But it's like, I feel like there are ultimates that do that much just from casting it like normal.
Just doing the regular thing. But it gives you that weapon and spell damage. This, to me, like it might not be any good, but it's just wacky enough that it's got my attention.
Yeah, it is wacky. I guess a Glyphic is like, I don't know, like some kind of stone figure thing or something.
Yeah, I wonder what that is. What is an apocryphal Glyphic?
I do not know. It has a 15-second duration. It must be some sort of creature. It has a health bar.
Yeah.
So, anyway. And then the morphs, we have Glyphic of the Tides. So this one spawns at 53% health instead of 30%. And then it also provides major protection when you get it to full health, in addition to the other stuff. And then the Resonating Glyphic morph, you deal damage to it instead of heal it, and that's what powers it up, and it spawns at 70% health. Otherwise, no difference. You just damage it instead of heal it. Otherwise, it just does the stuff that the base ability does. That's a weird one to me.
Yeah, I don't like the damaging because it's like, I don't want to be, I'm looking at it from a PvP standpoint. I don't want to be wasting my damage on that. Like, to me, I like the heal more for a BG sense because, if you're a healer, I don't know how much healing it takes to get this thing up, but if it's like, another character, then I think you could get it healed up pretty easily. And then start, getting that buff. I kind of like that idea, but the damage one really, I don't like that one for a BG.
I kind of wish that you got a much bigger reward for having it at full health, and I also wish that it lasted a lot longer because I like the idea that like your enemies really don't want you to have it at full health. Your enemies are incentivized to attack the ultimate instead of you. Yep. Because if that ultimate's at full health, it's bad news for them. And I feel like right now it's not enough of a threat where you would probably still just continue to ignore it, So it's an interesting idea. I think if you get it at full health, you should do a lot more. And then we have something interesting on our hands. And because then you're prompting enemies to attack it. That's going to take the pressure off of your team. Introduces a whole new kind of gameplay.
Yeah.
So that's the ultimate. So with the active abilities, we have Rune Mend. This is your main like spammable burst heal, basically, and it's kind of like the Rune Blades damage spammable. You do these 3 kind of rapid successive things. So craft a series of precise apocryphal runes, then propel them at yourself or an ally in front of you. The runes heal for, this says 1161 health 3 times, and generate crux. Each active crux reduces the cost of the ability by 3%. So I'll tell you my tooltip here. It is 5359.
Wow.
Then times 3. So that's like a 15k heal.
Not including the Crux buff.
For the base ability, just reduces the cost when you consume Crux. It doesn't increase the heal.
Yeah. Sorry.
But it generates Crux when you cast it.
Yeah.
And then so yeah, it does not consume Crux. So that's an important thing. So each active Crux reduces the cost of the ability, but it does not consume the Crux when you cast it. So it just keeps doing that. So the morphs, we have Audacious Rune Mend. Healing a target under 50% health grants them minor heroism for 6 seconds. And then we have Evolving Rune Mend, which applies an additional 6-second heal over time. Let's see here. I'm interested in that Evolving one.
Yeah, how strong is that? Hot.
So my tooltip here is 5835 over 6 seconds. So not crazy strong, like just under 1k heals per second tooltip wise. But so it's like kind of a weaker Polar Wind, like the Warden's Polar Wind.
Yeah.
I like having a burst heal that also gives me a heal over time. That's just kind of a convenient bar space wise, kind of keeping the bar space tidy.
What's the cost on this ability?
I think it's a typical like burst heal. Let's see, like 4,000, 39.93.
Yeah.
That's with a Breton. That's as a Breton. So it's actually kind of expensive.
Well, it'd be about what, 3,600 if you've got the Crux.
Oh yeah, probably.
That's interesting.
So anyway, that's the class burst heal. Let me make sure I'm not. Oh yeah. So next up we have Remedy Cascade. This is the healing version of the beam cannon. So channel the Abyssal Sea to coalesce a beam of restorative energy. The beam heals you and your allies in its path for 11,310 health over 4.5 seconds. Consume Crux to also restore 728 Magicka and Stamina per Crux spent to your allies over the 4.5 seconds. So I'll give you the tooltip really quick here for a real build. So 50,000, just over 50,000 over 4.5 seconds.
Good night.
And then and then you consume Crux to get that Magicka and Stamina. This one also costs the highest of your max resources. And then the morphs, the Cascading Fortune heals for up to 50% more based on your target's missing health. And then the Curative Surge morph, the beam gradually grows stronger the longer you channel it, healing for up to 192% more at the end of its duration. So one's kind of like a reverse execute, right? When you heal someone that's low on health, it heals them for 50% more, or up to 50% more. And the other one just grows stronger the longer you hold it.
I mean, I think a lot goes into like how easy is it going to be to hit your allies with this, but this just seems like an insanely strong heal.
Yeah. And I also feel like this beam might actually be kind of easy to use in BGs. As long as your teammates know that it's a friendly beam and not to dodge out of it, you probably can use it pretty effectively if you kind of practice and get good at it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, looking forward to seeing that in action. That's an interesting, this free aim beam thing is just a neat idea.
Yeah, it is a really cool idea.
Next ability we have Chakram Shields. Carve the runes of the blind man to call forth spinning mystical discs. Discs surround you or up to 4 allies in front of you, granting a shield that absorbs 3159 damage for 6 seconds. Discs prefer your reticle target or low health targets without shields. Well, we got it. We got to get the tooltip, the real tooltip.
Yep.
It is. So this is NPVP 4216. So not huge.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought you had another digit there. I was about to be like, whoa.
It's like 4,000.
Yeah, that's not enough for PvP purposes.
But you can apply it to 4 people at a time. That's kind of nice.
Yeah.
This is another one that costs the highest of your max resources. The morphs, we have Chakram of Destiny. So that this one generates Crux, and then recasting the shield on a target that already has the shield increases the max strength of the shield by 30%, makes it a little bigger. And then the other morph, Tidal Chakram, consumes Crux to cause the shields to heal for 33% of the shield's remaining strength every 1 second per Crux spent. So it just kind of gives you a little heal over time. It's kind of like the Resto Staff damage shield ability.
Yeah.
Doesn't that give you like a heal over time?
I think so, yeah.
That one doesn't seem crazy strong. They have another shield ability that we'll talk about here in a little while that seems like kind of the better option from what I've seen. Next ability we have Arcanist Domain. Draw forth your tome and invoke the Vigoratum of Hermaeus Mora.
That sounds right.
To conjure a vortex of eldritch power. Standing in this vortex grants you and your allies minor courage, minor fortitude, minor intellect, and minor endurance. Yeah, that's what it does. It has a 20-second duration. So yeah, you put this AoE on the ground and anyone standing in it gets minor courage and then all 3 minor recovery buffs. And then we have the morphs Reconstructive Domain provides an AoE hot. In addition to that, my tooltip's about 1k heals per second. And then the other morph is Xena's Empowering Discs. These effects cling to you and your allies for up to 10 seconds after leaving the vortex. So it just kind of sticks to them. They don't have to stay standing in it to continue getting those benefits.
Yeah, that to me is the one to go on a PvP standpoint. I really like the idea of just a support character having an ability that throws a bunch of buffs to their allies, and it's a sticky buff. So like I could see that being really heavily used in BGs.
Minor courage and all 3 minor recoveries. Just boom, here you go, everybody. Enjoy.
Oop, you all got them.
10 seconds at a time, easy.
Yes.
And how big is this thing? It's an 8-meter radius. That's pretty big. That's like Grothdar.
Yeah. That's really good. That's just a really, like, I don't think it's like an overpowered skill, but just a great skill for a support character.
Yeah, it's actually really nothing crazy. It's just like, here's some just nice buffs to have. You're welcome.
Yeah, I really like that one.
Even if you want to use the one with the heal over time as well, that's good too.
Yeah, also not bad.
Yeah, it's big enough where it's fairly usable. How expensive is it? It's oh wait, that's the wrong ability. 3288 as a Briton.
It's really not bad. Is it Magicka or your most expensive?
Yeah,
okay.
It's Magicka. It's just Magicka. So here's the portal, Apocryphal Gate. Breach the world walls to create a portal at a target location. Its twin appears directly before you. Crossing the threshold allows you to teleport from one to the other for as long as the portals remain open. And it generates a Crux every time you teleport. So it does have the 7-second cooldown, so you cannot cast it again until that 7-second cooldown is up, but you can pop back and forth between the portals as many times as you like during that 7 seconds. The morphs, we have Fleet-Footed Gate. After teleporting, you gain Major Expedition for 5 seconds, and then we have the other morph, Passage Between Worlds, which basically gives your allies a synergy that will allow them to use the portal as well. I would use the Major Expedition one, I think. Well, I don't know. They're both good, actually.
I really like the idea of the one that allows the allies to use it. I think this is another ability to me that if somebody gets really good with these portals, like just, it's kind of more of a higher skill, higher reward example to me. If you've got an Arcanist that's really good with these portals and sets them up for the team to use, like I think there's some really cool possibilities of what could be done there.
Yeah, thinking of like coordinated team play, what if we use that ultimate that has the 3 synergy thing? We could all like portal in, bomb, portal out.
Yep. Yeah.
That could be fun.
Or I could just see some, like, an Imperial City or Cyrodiil. Like, there's some cool things I feel like you could do with this portal, like with a coordinated group of movement and moving around. And
No, I bet in time we'll see some people do some really interesting stuff in groups with that.
mm-hmm.
Okay, and then the passives for the healing skill line. We have Healing Tides. Your mastery of weaving fate and abyssal water increases your healing done by 3% for each active crux. That's pretty straightforward. Then we have Hideous Clarity. You've stared too long into the abyss. When you generate crux, you restore 225 magicka or stamina, whichever maximum is higher. And you're generating crux all the time, so you'll be getting that quite a bit. We have Erudition. It says, knowledge is power. Your excessive scholarship increases your magicka and stamina recovery by 18%. I like the fanciful wording. All this is you have 18% extra magicka and stamina recovery. Just no condition. You don't have to activate it. No. It's just there all the time.
This is just ridiculous. I mean, this is the kind of recovery I think that you were alluding to earlier.
Yes.
You talk about, like, even that previous ability, you're generating crux all the time. That's a lot of recovery. Your base recoveries are already increased by 18%, which is a massive percentage. I would say that this is a class that has its own built-in recovery. Like, you would have to do minimal, very little, if any at all, to set your recovery numbers up to a comfortable level. Like, it's almost already built into the class.
Yeah, I'm thinking, like, honestly, Wretched Vitality, probably not even necessary.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's needed.
Like an 18% boost, just permanent, unconditional to magicka and stamina recovery is pretty darn huge.
And it's not like a unique buff. So, like, let's go back to...
Or it is unique is what you mean.
Well,
it is unique, so it stacks.
Yeah, so let's go back to that buff. Like, you're throwing the minor fortitude, intellect, and endurance on here. So you're getting 18%. You throw that ability down, you're getting 15% on top of that. You've got this previous passive where you're getting 225 of your major. I mean, it's just wild how much recovery we're talking. Just like base class, without adding anything additional.
And if you wanted to, that class damage buff ability, that morph that gives you resources every 5 seconds, I mean, you have so many sustain options with this class. This is one that I'm surprised actually went live with the 18%. I was expecting that number to come down, or for them to change that passive entirely. I mean, they already have plenty of sustain tools. Compared to other classes, they have ample sustain tools without this passive.
That thing could drop down to 5%, and I would probably argue that it's still a pretty good passive.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, it definitely needs to be lower, or it honestly doesn't even need to exist. It should just be something different, I think. They have plenty of sustain without it.
Yeah.
And then we have Intricate Rune Forms. Your status as Illuminatus reduces the cost and increases the strength of your damage shields by 10%. They're kind of stepping on Sorcerer's toes there a little bit as far as being like the damage shield class. They have multiple damage shield abilities here, and now they have a whole passive just dedicated to making them the best at using damage shields, basically.
Yeah. All great passes once again. And we'll, we're going to get to even more great passes, but I think the part about their passives that stand out the most to me is that usually that's like passives are a lot of them are tied to that specific skill line, or they're tied to the specific class. Like, most of these passives we talked about are just, here it is. You've got it. Use whatever abilities you want. Doesn't matter.
It's like open and applies to any and everything.
It's just like, here it is. You've got it. Don't worry about it. So that's the part that probably stood out the most to me, and why I think the passives are so incredibly strong.
Yeah, they're such good passes. All right, so that is the healing skill line. So next up we have Soldier of Apocrypha. This is the one that is more tanking focused. The ultimate is called Gibbering Shield, like you're a gibbering idiot, Gibbering Shield. Gather the true strength of Apocrypha around you, forming protective tentacles and a damage shield that absorbs 60% of all damage for 10 seconds, up to a max of 31,732 damage, scaling off your max health. When the shield collapses, you lash out, dealing all of the damage absorbed as magic damage to enemies within 5 meters over 10 seconds. So you cast this ultimate, it gives you, it's not a normal damage shield. It lasts for the full 10 seconds, and it reduces all incoming damage by 60%. And I guess it maxes out at a certain point depending on your max health. And then once it's done, once that maximum has been reached, or once the 10 seconds expires, then it explodes and applies a dot to everyone that's within 5 meters of you. That maximum shield strength can be different. It can scale. Like when I have 35k health, it's like a 36k tooltip.
Okay.
You know, so it doesn't take that much to pump that thing up quite a bit.
Okay.
Then we have the Gibbering Shelter morph. When the shield absorbs damage, these pseudopods lash out at up to 6 allies within 15 meters, granting them a damage shield for 4 seconds that absorbs 5462 damage. And those shields can be reapplied every 1 second. And both shields apply off of they scale off of your max health. So that one's pretty cool. This is actually a really nice defensive ultimate. So like if you're like really under heavy fire, you cast this thing, and as long as you're taking continuous damage, like if you're standing in caltrops or something like that, then you're just refreshing the shield on your allies every second over and over. And my tooltip, it's like a 4K, or let me look. I'm going off of memory, but let me just make sure I have it right. Yeah, it's like a 4,800 damage shield, which sounds pretty small, but if it's refreshing every second, that's actually really nice.
You can almost look at that as kind of like a hot, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. A 4,000 something hot.
Is that 4,000 after the PvP?
Yeah, that's in PvP. That's the PvP
number. Wow. Yeah. And that same thing with that 36,000 damage shield that was in PvP?
Yes, it's in PvP.
Wow. Yeah.
So very strong defensive ultimate.
I'm not crazy about defensive ultimates in PvP, but this one's probably going to be labeled annoying by both of us at some point in the future.
Yeah, it kind of is like almost like a better version of Barrier.
Yeah.
You know,
it really is.
Alliance War ultimate.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So that's that morph, and then we have the Sanctum of the Abyssal Sea morph, which seems way less interesting. It just increases the max size by about 6,000 damage. So it does not give your allies that shield thing. So that one seems way less interesting.
Yeah. First one seems a lot better.
So that's the ultimate. For the active abilities, we have Runic Jolt. Craft a defensive apocryphal rune that deals 1161 magic damage and applies minor maim for 15 seconds. The rune also taunts for 15 seconds if it would not cause taunt immunity. Maybe some tanks out there knows what that means. I've never tanked properly before, so I don't know how to cause taunt immunity. Oh, I guess you can like over taunt things. So maybe this prevents you from over taunting. That's kind of nice. And it generates crux when you use it as well. And then while slotted, damage taken is reduced by 2% per active crux. So yeah, basically my rewording is it's a class taunt. It applies minor maim, it generates crux, and you get 2% damage mitigation per active crux. And then your morphs, we have Runic Embrace. So it gives you like an instant health-based heal when you use it as well. And it also applies minor lifesteal in addition to the other stuff. And then the Runic Sunder morph, it converts into a stamina ability and deals physical damage, and it applies a unique 2200 armor debuff. So that seems like probably the one of choice for PvE if you're a tank trying to give your group as much damage as possible. I don't know, unless you're already over penetrating, then that may not be valuable. So I guess it depends on the group.
It's unique to me how many I don't know if that's the right word for that, but it's interesting to me how many unique buffs this class has.
Yeah, like not a named, like surprising that's not like minor breach or something like that.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of unique buffs and debuffs that it has.
What's up, KDMS? Thanks for joining us, man. So yeah, I feel like I don't know. I don't really tank, so I don't know which morph seems better to me. That unique 2200 armor debuff is kind of nice, and I don't know if it would actually be used all that much in a PvE setting now that I think about it, because I think most groups probably hit that penetration cap pretty easily. So I guess probably the other morph, the one that gives you a heal and gives you lifesteal, might be more useful.
Yeah.
But, even ignoring the taunt, I'm just thinking for like PvP purposes, you're applying minor maim, and minor lifesteal, and you're getting a heal. Or you're doing the armor debuff.
Yeah, even the armor debuff I could see being pretty decent in PvP. Minor maim and armor debuff.
Yeah. Not bad. I don't know if it'd be worth a bar slot. Yeah, I don't know if that's very useful in PvP, but maybe.
I mean, that damage taken reduced by 6% if you have the 3 crux too.
Next ability is Rune Spite Ward. Like the Rune Knights of old, summon a shield that absorbs 4,800 damage for 6 seconds, scaling off your max health. The first time you take damage, the shield retaliates and deals magic damage to the attacker, scaling off of your armor. And then you consume crux to heal yourself for 1,600 health, scaling off your max health per crux spent. So obviously those numbers can be a lot bigger depending on your health.
Yep.
And so then the morphs, we have Impervious Rune Ward. It doubles the shield size for the first 1 second that it's active. This is the shield ability everyone says is like OP, by the way. That 1 second duration of that shield size being doubled, it sounds like insignificant, but it's apparently very, very useful from what I've been told by Uncle Sam and others who've used it.
Huh.
Let's see here. Mine is a 4227 damage shield, and then that can be doubled, for that 1 second. And then we have Spite Ward of the Lucid Mind is the other morph. It refunds 30% of the cost per crux spent. That one seems boring. Just reduces the cost. We have infinite sustain as it is.
We don't need the sustain.
So the one that doubles the size for that first second that it's active, that's the one. That's the one to use. And it's apparently very, very good. I haven't tried it yet, but I've been told by multiple very good PvP players that it's extremely good. So next ability we have, this is the class armor buff. This is it's called Fate Woven Armor, the base ability. Forge Defiant Runic Armor around you, granting major resolve for 20 seconds. While the armor persists, taking damage applies Minor Breach, reducing the armor of your attacker by... Oh yeah, we know what Minor Breach does. Applies Minor Breach. So this is your major armor buff, and then when somebody deals damage to you, it applies Minor Breach to them. And then the morphs, we have Crux Weaver Armor, and it adds an extra 10 seconds to the duration, so it's 30 seconds instead of 20 seconds. And it generates Crux when you take damage. That's pretty handy. And then the other morph is Unbreakable Fate. It gives you an extra 5% block mitigation, plus an additional 5% block mitigation per crux consumed. So when you cast it, it'll consume crux. If it consumes all 3 crux, I mean, that's 5, 10, 15, plus the 5% that you automatically get from the ability itself. So 20% extra block mitigation. So that'd be like having 5 pieces of sturdy armor. That's like worth 5 sturdy pieces of armor right there.
Yeah, that's wild.
Pretty nice.
Very good. I would, from a PvP standpoint, I would probably do that first morph, just because you're
easy easy crux generation.
Just automatic crux. Anytime something's hitting you, your crux is just automatically going. Plus, anytime someone's hitting you, they're also getting Minor Breach. Like in a PvP, like just throwing out Minor Breach and getting that crux. And we talked about passives where that's automatically getting you sustain. Like that is, oh man,
it's it's a longer duration, so it's just less upkeep.
Yeah, that's a good one. And I would say that second morph seems unbelievable from a PvE standpoint. Like,
oh yeah, or from a someone who likes to someone who likes to hang out on flags in battlegrounds. Seems really good for that.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, really cool armor buff, really convenient. It's nice to have like an easy source of minor breach that's on an ability you're going to be using anyway. It also looks really cool in my opinion. I like the way it looks.
Mm-hmm.
Next up we have Runic Defense. Cast forth a complex rune, granting you and your group members minor resolve for 20 seconds. You gain minor protection for 20 seconds. And then the first time you are damaged while below 50% health, the minor protection is consumed and you heal for 4,800 health, scaling off of your max health. So a lot of health scaling. You notice that with this class, a ton of health scaling stuff.
Very beneficial for this class to have a lot of health, I think.
Yeah, they really want you to stack that health big time. Let's see. I'm just looking at tooltips here. So with 28,000 health, that's a 8454 heal.
Good night.
So just one time when you take damage below 50% health, you get an 8454 heal. And then I'm guessing if you go above 50% health and then dip down again, it can happen again.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically you give everyone in your group minor resolve, you give yourself minor protection, and then when you take damage below 50% health, you lose the minor protection and you get that heal. And that's my rewording of the thing. I kind of wrote my own little rewords here just to help me organize it in my own brain and understand it. The morphs we have Rune Guard of Freedom. Hell yeah, brother. Gain 3,000 armor and crowd control immunity for 6 seconds when the heal occurs. When you take that, below 50% hit and get that heal, you'll also get 3,000 armor and 6 seconds of CC immunity. Now, hold on. The CC immunity does have a 30-second cooldown.
Oh, okay.
I was worried about that one because I was like, wait a minute. That seems way
too good.
That seems way too good. But yeah, that has a 30-second cooldown, but the 3,000 armor, that can happen every time. So that's actually pretty nice.
Yeah.
And then the other morph, Rune Guard of Still Waters, immobilizes enemies within 7 meters after a 1-second delay. That one also seems pretty good.
Also seems very good. Immobilize? Yeah, that seems very good.
I feel like I want the CC immunity one though. That one seems, even with a 30-second cooldown, that seems so good.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. That's the one to go. It's already a good team buff, giving you great buffs. And then what's that 3,000 armor? Like that's really good too.
Unique 3,000 armor on top of the minor resolve, which if you're using Vigor, you already have minor resolve, but maybe you don't. Maybe you're not using that. And then last active ability, we have Rune of Eldritch Horror. Etch an incomprehensible rune on your enemy's mind, paralyzing them in fear after a 1-second delay, stunning them for 4 seconds. This terror applies minor vulnerability for 10 seconds. If used against a monster, the paralyze lasts for 8 seconds. This ability cannot be dodged. So yeah, you cast this on someone after a 1-second delay, it fears them, and it applies minor vulnerability for 10 seconds. And then, I guess the stun duration is doubled against monsters, and it can't be dodged. The morphs, we have Rune of Uncanny Adoration. I don't know where these names come from, but this one charms the enemy instead of fears them, and that just causes them to move towards you rather than staying where they're at. It's still CC. You can break it like a normal stun or anything. It just causes them to move towards you. That's the only thing this morph does, is it makes it a charm instead of a fear, which doesn't seem super valuable to me, honestly.
I'm interested to see that one used. Like, I agree. To me, that seems very less, but like, the fact that it can't be dodged and it's automatically, it's going to happen. You're going to have to break out of it. Like, I'm curious to see what moving other players does. Like,
well, I've been charmed. Like, there's that mythic, I can't remember the name, but there is a mythic that will charm you, and I've been hit with it. I've seen people use it, and it is kind of weird. It's like, whoa, I'm moving, but it's like the instant I realize that I don't have control of my character, I just automatically do the break free. Like it's just a reflex. So I'm only being charmed for like a second.
So you don't. You take like maybe a step or two.
Maybe a step or two. I just don't see why, as a morph choice, how much more of a benefit I'm really getting there. Scrolledpodcast@gmail.com. Maybe there's something I'm not getting about it. And then the other morph is called Rune of the Colorless Pool, and it applies minor brittle to the target. Is all that does. Which actually, that to me, that's the one that makes sense. That's just making them take more crit damage. That I can wrap my head around.
More debuffs.
Yeah. So that's probably the one I would use personally. And then we have some passives. Aegis of the Unseen. Form a secret soldier within your mind. A defense against arcane forces without. While a beneficial soldier of Apocrypha ability is active on you, increase your armor by 1980. So basically, as long as your armor buff is active, you'll have an extra 1980 armor. Unique.
Yeah. It's just funny because there's so much written in that, and then it's like, you get 1980 armor.
You get 1980 armor as long as your armor buff is active, buddy. Yeah. Good job. Next passive is Wellspring of the Abyss. Apocryphal knowledge bubbles up from the depths of your psyche, increasing your health, magicka, and stamina recovery by 129 for each soldier of Apocrypha ability slotted. Even more recovery.
More recovery.
Circumvented Fate is the next passive. Casting an Arcanist ability warps the weave of fate around you, granting you and your group members minor evasion for 20 seconds, which reduces your AoE damage taken by 10%. And that, I guess it has a 5-second cooldown as far as how frequently that can be applied, but with a 20-second duration,
100%.
That's going to be permanent. Yeah. So everyone has minor evasion now. Yep, congratulations.
That's the one that hurts the Templars right there.
Hurts Templars. It hurts Necros too. It hurts Wardens a little bit. I mean, it actually hurts a lot of people.
It hurts a little bit of everybody.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about how valuable evasion is before because most of the things that kill you in PvP are AoE.
Yeah, exactly right.
So this is just going to make everybody generally just more survivable. And then the last passive is called Implacable Outcome. The will of an Arcanist is absolute. When you consume Crux, gain 4 ultimate. This effect can occur every 8 seconds. I love how just like that opening line has nothing to do. It seems like completely unrelated. The will of an Arcanist is absolute. Anyway, when you consume Crux, gain 4 ultimate.
I love it. It's just such a nice little layer of flavor. It's just good.
Okay, KDMS, I missed it earlier, but can that other morph be blocked? The
I think
stun?
The base ability says it can't be dodged.
It can't be dodged, but it can be blocked. People aren't going to block it, though. Who blocks? Come on. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's what makes the charm so nice, because it can't be blocked. Okay. That's the Arcanist. That's every Arcanist ability. We've discussed them all. So I expect all of you guys to be Arcanist experts now and come up with some OP builds right out of the gate. Just kidding. I'm still wrapping my mind around the class. I'm definitely going to have to get my hands on these abilities and try it out firsthand.
Yeah.
But I mean, in general, it seems like a super strong class just from the passives alone.
I think that going through those, I'm surprised by, like, I feel like the general takeaway through PTS was they're a very good defensive class with a crazy amount of sustain, but like, I feel like the common theme was like, they just didn't have a lot of damage, but like
outside of that beam.
Yeah. I don't know. I just struggle. Like, I feel like there's a lot of opportunities to get a lot of damage out of this class. Like,
yeah, I mean, now that it's live, the general population has their hands on it. People are going to be experimenting with all kinds of things, and on PTS, we get some really skilled and talented people in there, but I think a lot of times with really good players and really experienced players, you can kind of get tunnel vision, and you just kind of go to your go-to sets and your go-to kind of ways of doing things. And there might be better ways of doing things that we just haven't explored yet, and we're about to see what those things are.
Yeah.
So I'm just super excited to have a new class. It's awesome. Like the few BGs I've done, it's cool to just see some new visual effects, see some new stuff happening. And I'm surprised at how really the class is integrated right on in there. The few times I've come across some Arcanists, like it's not glitchy. Like they're just casting abilities and they seem like they belong there like everybody else. Pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
scrollandpodcast@gmail.com. That is our email address. If you would like to send emails to that address, that is acceptable. You may do so, and we will read them here on the show. They can be about ESO-related things or not. You can make suggestions for the show, ask us a question, say shout out to a friend, say hello, tell us a joke, whatever you like. So that is scrollandpodcast@gmail.com. First email we have comes from Toadster. Toaster says, what is your opinion on the Arcanist? Is stamina or magicka better? How good do you think it will do in PvP? You guys rock! 3 exclamation points.
Nice.
Toadster.
Nice.
Thanks, Toadster. Thanks for writing in. So we just talked all about the Arcanist. Hopefully we kind of answered your question already. I think it seems like a really, really strong class. The visuals seem super duper cool. I'm still waiting to see how like mechanically interesting they really are in practice. That's something I'm kind of maybe not so sure about. It might end up actually being boring despite the visuals and everything, but maybe not. As far as if magicka or stamina is better, probably magicka, just because you can just use more of the abilities more often, or probably just some kind of hybrid.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like it's kind of both. Like it's a very hybrid designed class.
Super duper. Yeah, they have all those like multiple skills. It's like depending on which resource is higher or lower or whatever. Pretty cool. But yeah, I'm just stoked to have a new class in general. Honestly, like this is kind of an out of left field choice for a class.
Yeah.
Was not expecting this one, but I don't really mind it. I think it's a neat idea. And just to have things shaken up and have a new element in the environment is really nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, I think it'll do great in PvP. I think it'll be excellent. An excellent support class in particular in PvP. I think they might challenge wardens in that space.
Yeah. And I think it's right on track. We've talked about when new classes come out, they're just kind of a level above. It's kind of the new and flashy. They want to show it off.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're coming in right at that level. So
they are, yeah. But not like outrageously so, like, I mean, the little bit I've seen them, which is hardly any, but it seems like, yeah, maybe they're a little too strong, but it's okay. We can kind of let them be that way for a little while.
Yeah, I think the uniqueness to it is that they're a little too strong on like sustain and defensive side. It's not like so it just it makes them really tough but they're not overly strong on and maybe that's what kind of people were saying on the PTS is of their offense is lacking. I don't think it's necessarily lacking, but their sustain and defensive capabilities with all the shields and things is just over the top.
Yeah, well, like that build that you said you were running into last night that was like using all the status effects and dots and stuff and was really eating your lunch. I think that's probably an example. Like that build is probably using a lot of sort of proc sets and stuff.
Yeah.
They're kind of cheesing on, but they can afford to do that because they have all the survivability and sustain built into the class, so they can just kind of stack the damage, use all the cheesy sets they want, and they're still kind of covered.
Yep, exactly.
Thanks for writing in, Toadster. Next email is from Uncle Sam. Shout out to Uncle Sam in the chat right now. The subject is shout out to Kingnar. Sam says, "Hi, Scrollin. The question is, how are you two going to design the aesthetics of your Arcanist characters? Are you going to follow the Zone and Arcanist themes Zos designed, or are you guys going to try something different? Please describe the style and aesthetic you're going to go for." Thanks, Sam. Sam, this is very obviously just give me gold.
Yeah.
I can't think of a question. Give me gold, please.
Hey, I'll give this to Sam. The style, we talk about this all the time. Look at the character is the most important part. But I don't know if I've got the style idea picked out. I think off the top of my head, the one that I'm kind of playing around in my head is like old wizard style, like real long beard, old like robes. That's kind of what's playing around in my head. But I don't.
Okay.
I haven't toyed around with anything yet of what that would be.
I'm thinking like a warlock. I want something that's kind of like a little on the darker side.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily evil, but
not nice either.
Not necessarily nice. Exactly.
You don't mind hanging around with this guy in a group, but just you and this person, a little questionable.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be in a post-apocalyptic situation with this guy.
This is the first person. This is the guy that immediately turns to cannibalism. Is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I was reading the chat, getting distracted. But yeah, for any character, I never have an aesthetic in mind ahead of time. I make the character right now. He just has the generic gear that he started the game with.
Oh.
And what?
Well, I'm way opposite. Before I even do a single quest, I've got the entire character's look completely done. Like I will spend 10 to 15,000 gold getting the look of the character perfectly done, and then I'll stroll to do my first quest.
I got to get to know them. I got to get to know who they are before I can start figuring out what their look is, because they develop a personality to me first, and then that informs how I set up their look. But yeah, I think I'm going for somewhat of a darker theme with this guy. Sam says, "P.S. Kingnar smells." Sensing a theme here, Sam.
The old shout out to Kingnar on the start, but as a reminder, P.S. Kingnar still smells.
Mm-hmm. Want to buy my dog? Welcome, dude. Thanks for joining us. Got just in time to hear the last two emails. Next email comes from Pellinal Whitestrake. Pellinal says, "Greetings, scrollers. Let's play a game of Buff, Marry, Nerf, wherein we choose one skill, set, class, or anything really that gets a buff, one that gets a nerf, and one that stays as is. Ready?" So he just has this one example. I don't know if we're supposed to come up with other examples, but I feel like I need like prep time if we're going to do that. So we'll just do the example he gives us here. So are we going to buff, marry, or nerf the Vampire Undeath passive, the Templar Beam, or the Wretched Vitality set? Davis, what do you think?
Nerf Templar Beam right off the bat.
There we go.
I probably would marry Undeath passive. I think it's right in the right spot. And then I would probably buff Wretched Vitality, which seems insane because it's already the best sustained stat in the game. But the only reason I'm choosing that one for buff is because I think it would do the least amount of damage to the meta. I think if you buff the Undeath passive or buff the Templar Beam, it would break the meta. I think if you buff Wretched Vitality, it's the least amount of damage to the meta. Like just a little bit more sustain for already a great sustain set.
I'm right there with you. I have the exact same answer. Nerf the beam, buff Wretched, sure, always do it. And Undeath passive is great as it is. Yeah. I was thinking like I feel like Streak and the Nightblade's invisibility, and then there's got to be like a third thing that we could put in there to do like a buff, marry, nerf thing, but I don't know what the third one would be.
Yeah, I like this idea. It's fun. I like an idea. What? So say your two again.
Streak and invisibility cloak. What would the third thing be?
Yeah, that's pretty good. Streak, cloak. Part of me wants to say misform, but
it's basically streak.
Yeah,
but we could do that. I guess that's one. So let's see. I think I would want to. I don't know. I'd probably keep streak how it is. I would nerf misform. I would buff cloak. That's what I would do.
Oh,
I know it sounds crazy buffing cloak, but I do feel like invisibility is highly counterable these days, as long as you just account for it in your build.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you talked me into it. I would probably agree with what you said, because you said nerf, streak, buff, and keep
nerf misform. Nerf misform.
Nerf misform, keep streak.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that would bring a little bit more balance to those. Yeah. Because you're not going to buff. You can't buff streak or misform. You just can't.
Yeah, well, I think streak needs to be better than misform, and right now it's not like clearly better.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Thanks for writing in, Pelinal. Last email comes from Pork Body. Pork Body says, greetings, Kit and Davius. I'd like to know what your top 5 favorite add-ons for ESO are, or even add-ons that you feel are essential that make ESO just better. Love the pod.
Nice.
Thanks, Pork Body. So, you want to get better scoreboard. First and foremost, shout out to Garion. Make sure that everybody stays on top of that. That is an essential add-on for anyone who enjoys playing Battlegrounds. It gives you all the information you want to see when you hit F5 and look at the scoreboard or whatever the controller equivalent is. You can see at one single glance, you see what everyone's class is, you see how much damage, how much healing they've done, you see their @ name and their character name. It's all there. You got to have that add-on. And it all looks good too. It all looks like it belongs in the game. You wouldn't even think it's an add-on.
Yeah.
So you want better scoreboard, combat metrics if you like to analyze your performance and see how much damage you're doing with abilities or how much damage you're taking from abilities or just really any kind of data from any fight. Combat metrics is awesome.
Yeah.
Just to help you refine your build and make build decisions and things like that. I use it all the time. Inventory insight. If you have multiple characters, it's non-negotiable. Get inventory insight so you can see all your inventory across all characters and banks and everything. The easy travel add-on to me has become very essential. If you're in some large guilds, it really helps. You can just basically click on a part of the map, and if there's anyone you know anywhere in that area, it'll just automatically port you to them for free. And then I really like having map pins. I like cheating and seeing all the icons before I discover them.
I can't imagine the game without map pins. I really can't.
Yeah. So those are mine. Do you have any add-ons you want to suggest?
I would really agree with your list. A couple other ones I would point out. Like I would probably agree with your list for like 5 top ones, but just some extra ones that stand out a lot to me is I can't think of the name of it, but the one that if you do writs, there's the auto writ.
The lazy writ.
Lazy writ crafter, like that's a necessity if you're doing that. And one simple one that I really, once again, it's one of those ones I can't imagine with it. It's very simple, but the Gray Skull weapon and spell damage meter, like just always knowing my weapon and spell damage is huge for me. So I think that one's really good. And then, I mean, I would agree with a lot of the ones you said. The only one that I can even think potentially off of that is that I have one that's just a skill point finder. It's called, I think it's like Urix skill point finder, something like that. And it basically, it just brings up a chart of if you're looking for extra skill points that you need on a character, it's just basically a map of like, here's all the places you can go and all the skill points you don't have yet. And so you can kind of just pick and choose from there where you want to go get some extra skill points.
Nice. Yeah, a lot of good add-ons out there. I will say, try to keep them to a minimum. I
would agree with that.
I really don't like try to load up on add-ons. I really don't even try to think of an opportunity to use one unless I just run into something that's causing me trouble. I'm like, man, I wonder if there's an add-on that solves this, So try to keep it to a minimum. I also recommend, and I know some friends of mine that listen are gonna boo and hiss at this, but try to avoid UI add-ons, man. They hit your performance big time, and they're also not. I don't think they're ugly, guys. Come on, they're ugly.
They make your screen ugly.
Yeah. This isn't an add-on thing, but it's. I feel like it's in the same spirit of the thing. KDMS, rightly so. It's in the spirit of the question. It's like a suggestion for a setting. If you haven't done this, go into your settings under nameplates and turn on nameplates for enemies when you point your cursor at them. Make it so that only when you point your cursor at them, their nameplate appears above their head. It makes it so much easier, like especially in like a coordinated, like if you're playing with groups of people, for like singling out targets, so you're looking right at them and you see their name right above their head. You don't have to like look all the way at the top of the screen. It's just like where your eyes are already pointing, you see the info you need.
Yeah.
Really, really helpful.
Yep. I would agree with that.
Okay. That's all the emails. Davius, pick a favorite.
I'm going to go with Pelennor. Pelennor White Strike. I like the buff Mary Nerf game. I thought it was fun.
That is fun. Maybe that'd be a recurring thing we bring back.
Yeah, I like that.
Feel free to hit us with any more buff Mary Nerfs, Pelennor, if you get any ideas for some good ones. Or any other email ideas. scrollandpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. We have a guild. The guild's name is Stoon's Goons. It is literally the best PvP guild in the game that also just so happens to be the best named guild on the PCNA server. It's also the official guild of the Scrollin' Podcast. If you'd like to be a member of Stoon's Goons, you can email us at scrollandpodcast@gmail.com and I will send you an invite. We're only on the PCNA server. If your guild roster is full, or if you're not on PCNA and you're on a different platform, you can just come join the Discord. Everyone who's in the Discord is a fully fledged goon, a fully fledged guild member. Anything that you're able to join us on, you're welcome to come along. And honestly, that's where the party's happening anyway. That's where we're always talking and hanging out and telling jokes and sharing memes and talking about builds. It's a very active community. Everybody's welcome. Please come join us. scrollandpodcast@gmail.com. If you would like to support the show, one easy thing you can do is go to the Apple Podcast app and give us a star rating and especially a written review. Really helps us out. If you'd like to go a step further than that, you can go to patreon.com/scrollandpodcast and receive Stoon's Boon for $3 a month. That gets you some extra Discord benefits, an individual shout out on every episode, get you access to the Booncast, an extra shorter podcast recording that I do on the off weeks. It's still ESO focused. Do some videos, some written guides, and of course, just knowing that you're helping support the show and help keep this thing going. That's the greatest gift of all. If you can't do Patreon right now, then just come hang out on the Discord. That doesn't cost anything. And like I said, everybody's welcome and we'd love to have you. So the Patreon, again, that's patreon.com/scrollandpodcast. Or for the Discord invite, that's just scrollandpodcast@gmail.com. Shout out to the chat. Ended up being a full chat towards the end here. We have Jorl, KDMS, Slavka, Uncle Sam, Wanna Buy My Dog, Crimson, Taggart was in here earlier.
Yep.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. Great to have you here.
Yep.
Shout out to Uncle Sam, Jorl, King Nar, KDMS, Slavka, Exolion, Taggart, Mother of Dragons, Crimson Knight, Wanna Buy My Dog. We've all just been playing together a lot. Our kind of core crew is growing by the day, it seems.
Which
is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So much fun.
It's great, man. I come home like every single day from work and I sit down on my computer like, what's going on in ESO? Oh my gosh, it's a party again. Pretty great. Shout out to the Elder Goons, the OGs. Thank you guys for sticking around for so long and being our friends. We really appreciate it. And shout out to our Stoon's Boon recipients, our Patreon supporters, Pork Body, Toadster, Gummy Bear, Grizzly Con, Thomas, Taggart, Mother of Dragons. Thank you all so very much. We really appreciate it, guys. Davius, anything else?
I think that's everything.
All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time. Okay, so here's our first ever advertisement on the Scrollin' Podcast. The Royal Bank of Garion is proud to sponsor the Scrollin' Podcast tonight. A mail sent to Garion Davy with the title Scrollin' Podcast number 4 LYFE Life Baby will allow players to receive their very own complimentary potato in game, as well as 69 gold. And then it says in tiny small print, too fast to read, or to read fast. 1 mail per account. Maximum players in Alaska Timbuktu may not be eligible for potatoes and will receive a smiley face as replacement potato to be eaten responsibly. Side effects: potato and or 69 gold. Responsibility of the recipient of the prize. The Royal Bank of Gary takes responsibility from what may occur upon receipt of these gifts. I'll edit that. That'll be real smooth.
That'll be real smooth. That'll be tight. It'll be real tight and smooth. That'll be good.
Real tight. Hey, Gary.
It'll be good. Hey, I'm on that Davius financial. That's 69 gold. Hey, that ain't nothing.
I'll take it.
That ain't nothing. That ain't nothing.
I know you're joking, but I mean,
you could sell a potato. I bet you get about another 12 gold.
Just kidding, but seriously. All right.
I love how. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, I love how of the whole thing. You read the whole thing, and the part that fumbled you up the most was the part Scrollin' Podcast. That was the part that tripped you. The word Scrollin' Podcast were the parts that tripped you up the most. There you go.
I got to admit the title Scrollin' Podcast doesn't really roll off the tongue.
You're not rolling? The scrolling podcast?
It's a little, you get a little tongue tied saying it, or I do anyway. My tongue kind of gets rolling around in there, not to be too explicit, but.
Oh boy.
There's some tongue stuff.
Oh geez. Oh goodness.
What's up, Jorl? Thanks for joining us, man.